Welcome in to the 42nd episode of the Southern Boys Sports Podcast. My name is Drew Hollands, my co-host Ben Clay.
What's going on, guys?
Episode 42, some more spring games have transpired. Basketball, NBA playoffs are underway. We are inching closer and closer to the college football regular season, Ben. And, I don't know really why I mentioned the NBA playoffs in the intro like we were going to cover them. If you're new listening, we're not talking about the NBA playoffs, unfortunately. So just go ahead and click off or, stay if you'd like. But just a disclaimer, we're not talking NBA playoffs. Although I am a Bucks fan, and we're down 3-1, Ben.
On the brink.
Yeah, I digress. How's this past week been treating you?
It was all right. It's been last week EOC's tough week. Didn't you had EOC's today, right?
Sure did. Yeah, it's not fun.
Not fun. But yeah, it's been a longer week. We're getting into that test stage of school. So once we get through that, baseball has like one more week left. So we're getting to the end of school, and it's coming up quick.
Yeah. Once we get to the summer, we'll have recruiting news. We'll have some more camp news once those things get up and going. NFL talk for just a second, just a little bit of a segue. I'm a Packers fan, and Aaron Rodgers been dealt to the Jets. Quite rough. I know you. I didn't see you much today. You were sick, so we didn't get the time to discuss. We didn't really talk about it yesterday either. But yeah, rough moves for the Packers. Although I felt like it was time to move on. It was a mutual parting of ways, and it's Jordan Love time, baby. Jordan Love time.
Yeah. Maybe the draft this Thursday should be a good one. I'm excited for the draft and this NFL season. I'm excited to see what Jordan Love can do. I always remember back to that first game he started when they kept on showing his mom at the very top of Lambeau.
Yeah.
And 20 degrees. Didn't have a great debut, but we'll see how he does.
Yeah, it's gonna be a chaotic draft for sure in the NFL realm of things, and I feel like every sporting event this season has just been open. There's no clear cut.
Yeah,
you're gonna be number one. You're gonna win. You talk about the NCAA tournament. We definitely didn't have that. We had a 4 and a 5 seed play for the national championship. You want to talk about the NFL draft? There's not a clear cut number one QB. There's not a clear cut 1 and 2 order. Although Bryce Young and CJ Stroud have been up there, but you've heard ramblings of Will Levis sneaking up to 2. You've heard ramblings of him dropping in the draft. Anthony Richardson has been, rumored to be up there in that top 3 or 4. So you just don't really know. There's not really a clear cut 1, 2 talking about guys in the past, like a Joe Burrow, like a Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa situation. We don't see that this year. And I think the same thing could be true for college football coming into the 2023-2024 season. Because you're talking about a Georgia team who's switching up QBs. They're going to have some young guys stepping into some roles. Bear Alexander transfers off the defensive line. And although they are going to be one of the favorited teams, it's not like they're a clear-cut repeat team. Michigan strong again. Alabama, although they're going to have to figure out quarterback, and we'll dive into that later here in episode 42. Although they have to figure that out, they're still always a favorite. Tennessee, sneaky good. LSU's been sneaky good. USC's kind of putting it together as they return their Heisman winning quarterback. So the field is wide open this season. We're going to jump right into it. If you clicked on the episode, we're talking top 10 most iconic helmets in college football. We will have a graphic up on Instagram and Twitter after this, so to display those kind of things. And, we're excited to get into this. Ben, do you have 5 helmets or 10?
I have 5. Because the 10 through 6 were consensus, right?
Yeah, 10. Okay, that's yeah.
Did you change Michigan? Did you keep Michigan at 6?
Let me check my notes.
Yeah, no, because
yes.
Okay, then we're good. Yeah.
Okay. At number 10. We have got a team based down in Coral Gables, a team that look, they've got a recognizable logo, they got a recognizable helmet, and I think everyone will agree. I don't know if everyone will agree with the placing of number 10, to be fair. And I think we're going to get a lot of pushback this episode. So, just I'm already prepared for it. I'm already locked in for what's to come. But I got the Miami Hurricanes here at number 10, Ben. Solid helmet. Obviously, the U is universally recognized. And when you talk about iconic helmets, you talk about recognized helmets. You talk about helmets that have shaped the game. I think Miami had that run back in the 80s and the 90s where they were an iconic brand, right? They were Miami. They were the U, right? And so that helped them solidify themselves as an iconic helmet. They've continued to be pretty talked about in the national media, although they're not always the best of teams. And that's really showed itself lately. Definitely good helmet. Solid looking, but when we're talking about iconic, I had to put him top 10, Ben.
No, I completely agree. I mean, when you see the U, you think Miami. So I think it literally fits perfect. I mean, on that side of the helmet, I mean, the colors, everything, it sends everybody back, and I think it's very iconic.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like what Miami's doing this year. And I saw an On3 post over on Twitter. It might have been on their other social medias. I'm not completely sure. But I saw their post about like top 15 breakout freshmen of the spring.
Yep.
And my guy that I talked about, Francisco Mauigoa, was up there. And I'm excited to see what he can do. He's a part of the Hurricanes. So, like I said, I've got Miami at numero 10. Ben, pulling that one out for you. Number 10.
Yep.
And let's get into number 9. Let's get into an SEC team, our first SEC team on the list so far. This is one that I think could be a little bit more debated. I think a little bit more people are going to have a problem with this one. Both these teams have a wide fan base. If you're watching on YouTube, you've seen it. If you're listening, it's the LSU Tigers. LSU, Ben. I like LSU a lot. I think they got a good helmet. I think they got a good iconic helmet. They've kept their helmet for a long time, right? That helps them solidify themselves as iconic. They did an excellent job keeping up that brand, keeping the LSU with the Tiger, even though they've changed the color. That yellow helmet, super iconic, recognizable logo, classic. And there are 8 helmets better than them. I think there's 8 more iconic helmets, I should say. And I think they're just more recognizable all around than the U, although it is relatively pretty close up there. I know we're going to get some pushback on that one. But Ben, your closing takes on LSU's iconic.
Yeah, no. I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, I mean, these helmets are great, but I just think there's 8 more iconic helmets. I love the LSU colors. If you see purple and yellow, you think LSU. You just already know it. But I think there are 8 helmets that are better.
Yeah, I'd agree. One of those 8 helmets. Let's take a trip to the Big Ten. We're going to talk about this team a good amount in episode 42. So if you're not a fan, it's going to be a tough day for you. But give me the Nebraska Cornhuskers coming in at number 8. A hard-nosed football team. They got Matt Rule coming into the helm here in 2023. It's a classic and super recognizable helmet from their success in the 90s with Scott Frost at QB. Obviously not been super successful lately, but they've been wearing the same helmet since the year 1970. Had a ton of success with them. And like I said, they've been recognized a little bit for their championship postseason runs from a little earlier on than where we are today, nonetheless. But look, I like Nebraska at number 8. I'm pretty confident in this one. Again, it's social media. It's the internet. We're always going to get pushback, Ben. But your 2 cents here.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of being iconic, I mean, Nebraska has one of the richest histories in all of college football. So, I mean, it's definitely iconic. You see the N, that red and white. It's been there for a long time. Great tradition, and I think it's a very iconic helmet.
Certainly. By the way, if you're listening or you're watching, and even you see that visual helmet up here in the top right of the corner, top right corner, make sure to go to our Instagram and our Twitter to find these graphics. You can find it laid out a little better than just having to tune in and listen to us speak. So make sure to go check out those graphics at so_boy_sports on Twitter, at southern_boy_sports pod on Instagram. Check out those graphics. Leave it a like. Tell us what you think, too. We'd like to have a discussion. That is number 8, right? Number 8 is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Number 7, a team we've discussed a lot on the pod, Ben. That's going to be the Florida State Seminoles. The classic spear logo on the side, very recognizable. One of the better traditions in college football. They have the run out of the guy on the horse before the game. looks really, really good on the helmet. I think the spear does. I think the gold and the maroon or garnet color looks really good together. And look, they played Tennessee in the 1998 national championship game. They've had pretty good runs prior in the past. You talk about when Deion Sanders was at Florida State and Tallahassee. You've talked about some other good players to wear the helmet as well. So they got solid success, national championship appearances. And look, I think it's more iconic than Nebraska, LSU, and Miami. Obviously, as I have them placed here at number 7, up for debate a little bit. I can see how maybe you want to slide Nebraska or Miami up here, but this is our list. I got them at 7, Ben.
Yeah, no, for sure, I agree. But I mean, the Florida State helmet and their logo. I mean, it's just so iconic, being that it's not even their logo, but you just know. And it's something that's just different. Love Florida State, and clearly me and Drew are a bit high on them, but
Yeah.
I love the helmet's very iconic, and I think it definitely is deserving of a top 10 spot.
Sure. Let's get to our last consensus pick, right? The pick that, because 5 through 1, me and Ben have each got something separate. We didn't want to agree on the whole list. We wanted to butt heads just a little bit. So, V, if you're listening, you might be a little salty. Michigan fans, if you're listening, you might be a little salty. But I got Michigan at 6. Hear me out. They've got an excellent helmet. They got an excellent tradition. They've had excellent success in the past. Nobody's doubting that. I think they've got one of the better stadiums in college football, really recognizable uniforms, and obviously those helmets, super rich history. But there's definitely a few teams better, definitely a few teams with a more recognizable helmet. I think top 6 in college football solidifies you as one of the more recognizable brands in college football, which I think is, if not true, very close to true for Michigan. Wings on the helmet, hands down recognizable. Everyone knows those 3 wings are in Michigan. Anyone can tell that. And like I said, I just think there's 5 teams with a more recognizable scheme, color, and overall helmet. That being said, I do really like Michigan's helmet. I think they're iconic. And that's our last consensus pick, Ben.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, like you said, Michigan not at all is it's definitely an iconic helmet. They're one of the most iconic colleges in all college football. But in the way I see it, there's 5 more iconic helmets. But still, I mean, you see the blue and the yellow, it's Michigan automatically, and they're very iconic helmets. But I think there are 5 better.
Sure. So like I said, we agreed on those 5. We have got our own 5 here that we want to talk about. We've got our own 5 that we want to bring into the equation. I've got my 5. Ben's got his 5. We're locked and loaded. We're going to keep this just pretty quick, right? Pretty quick before we get into spring games, quarterback battle. So if you clicked on the video or episode on Spotify for that, stay tuned. Number 5, Ben. Number 5 most recognizable helmet and iconic helmet in college football. The Buckeyes, the Ohio State Buckeyes. The stickers, absolutely, hands down, super duper recognizable. Although there are other teams who do it, they put the stickers. It's not just an Ohio State thing. I do think that they have began to be known for this. I know Ben has them a little bit higher. The color scheme is iconic. But here's the thing. They would be higher in my mind, but you bring into equation a black helmet. You bring into an equation helmets that aren't just the helmet that they wear, right? My other 4 don't have a ton or any alternate helmets. This is an iconic look, but they've changed it up just enough for me to slide them down under some teams that stick to what they've got. And that's why I have them at 5. So obviously the helmet itself could push for top 3. They brought in the black helmet, which I love, but it takes away an icon factor of this silver, red, and white helmet. And look, it's a winning program. They keep it simple. But I know Ben disagrees with this one, but I got to slide him at 5.
It's fine. I'll touch on it later. So my number 5 is Texas. You see the Longhorn. It's Texas. That burnt orange. It's Texas, and it's a very iconic helmet. It's one of those things that it hasn't changed. They've stuck with that white and the burnt orange logo. Very iconic. If you if you showed it to anybody in the United States, they could probably tell you it was Texas.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Texas at 5.
Yeah. Like I said, in the words of Ben, I'll wait for that one just a second. At number 4, inside my top 5, another Big Ten program. That's Penn State. Big Game Boomer dropped a list of the most iconic helmets or something. Credit to him, although we've had this on the slate to do for the podcast for a while. Credit to him. We're not stealing his idea, whatever. And, credit to anyone else who's had the idea. But we brought it to episode 42. I know people were livid that Big Game Boomer had him at where they did. And it's a classic white helmet. It's iconic. I like looking at it. It's aesthetically pleasing to me with the white out and Happy Valley. I think it's a great helmet, great look. Pushes for top 3. It really does. I've got 3 helmets better than him. But look, I'm ready to stand on this one. Classic unis, classic look, and not as iconic as these top 3. Just a little plain for me. Although that's a great thing. I don't hate that it's plain. I think that's what makes it iconic. But like I said, definitely got to slide 3 teams in over them. And Ben, I'll open up the floor for your number 4.
My number 4 is also Penn State, and similar reasons. It's very iconic. I mean, it's the blue, it's the white with like that navy blue that they have. It's just, you automatically know it's Penn State. But it is basic, so some people could not recognize it, I feel like. So it is in that more basic terms, but it's a great helmet, and I think deserving of number 4.
Yeah, I definitely slide him top 5. My number 3, Texas. Ben, you touched on him. Stole my thunder on that one. Look, you show this logo to anyone for miles and miles and miles, they're going to tell you that this is the Texas Longhorns. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it, results in a couple fans who may just be Texas bandwagons or Cowboy bandwagons, but we'll let that slide. You know what I'm saying? We'll let that slide. The orange and white.
How can you bandwagon Texas?
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people, if you don't really know college football, you kind of just root for Texas or root for Alabama or something like that. So
I'm just saying they haven't been good. So can't really bandwagon a
subtle Oklahoma fan shot right there at Texas. But no, just above the iconic Big Ten helmets. But I'm going to slide them just below the top 2. I think the top 2 were kind of untouchable for me. But Ben, I know you touched on Texas. So let's hear your number 3.
My number 3, you kind of switched my mind when you're talking about it. So I'm going to go with Ohio State at 3. Specifically because you talked about those alternate helmets. And I mean, that for sure would definitely throw a few people off. But when I think Ohio State, or if I see any helmet with stickers, how can you not think Ohio State?
No, you got to. Yeah, I think they've done a great job on that.
State. And I think for that reason, I mean, if I see any helmet with stickers, I think Ohio State. It doesn't even have to be like an Ohio State helmet. It's just that iconic. So I think because of the stickers being that iconic and then like bringing it into the sport, I think it's deserving of number 3.
Yeah. I changed Ben's mind. Maybe that's the W we take here.
I will tell you it was at number 1. So
okay, hey, I bumped it down 2 spots with my take. Listeners, social media viewers may not be too happy with either one of us, but I don't care. Let's go to number 2. Give me the Crimson Tide, Alabama. I hate them. I'm a Tennessee fan. If you couldn't tell, this is a Tennessee hat. Not an Alabama fan. Love the helmet. Numbers on the side, absolutely classic look. This is one of the teams I was talking about that doesn't change it up, right? You look at these helmets, you look at these uniforms, and it is Alabama. You don't change your helmet for home or away. You keep it simple. You keep it basic. You keep it good looking. The dynasty under Saban has just been recognizable for the newer generation. Back in the day, they had some solid teams as well. And I like the more iconic look over teams like Penn State that just has white and navy. I think these numbers give it a good touch. I think the color is Alabama specific. And, I have just one team over them, but I think Alabama is certainly in that top 3 conversation, Ben.
Yeah, and I'm my number 2 is the one team you haven't touched. My number 2 is Notre Dame. It's the green and gold. It's a classic. It's been in the sport for way too long. Not way too long, but it's been in the sport for very long. And I mean, if you see the green and gold, you think the Irish, you think Notre Dame. Extremely classic, extremely iconic, and number 1 and 2, I think could be flipped.
Yeah, I think we've got him flipped, Ben. I got number 1 as Notre Dame. My number 1 most iconic helmet in college football is Notre Dame. And again, for those of you listening, those of you watching, this is not best looking college football helmet. This is most iconic looks, most iconic college football helmets. I think that shiny classic gold is just so recognizable with South Bend, with Notre Dame. They've solidified themselves as a top helmet in college football. Not even talking iconic, just good looking. But I think they're iconic. Everybody knows who it is. It's a clean looking helmet. And I think everyone knows this look, especially covering college football. But outside, you show it to a lot of people, and I think they're going to be able to recognize this is Notre Dame. I got him at 1.
Yeah. So my number 1, opposite touched on it. I got Bama.
Bama.
You know, for me being a hater of Alabama's jerseys, you know, these helmets are quite iconic. You know, because either way you flip these Alabama helmets, and it's the same basic thing that everyone knows. You know, the red numbers, the white numbers. It's all there. It's very iconic, and I mean it's always there. It's very iconic, and it's just always there. I just said the same thing like 4 times, but yeah.
I will say one of the worst takes ever on Southern Boys sports history. We've got 1 and 2. I've probably had a couple bad ones as well, but here's what I remember. Number 1 was Alabama as a bottom 10 uniform in all of college football. That was a wild take. That was crazy to me.
Aside from the helmet, yeah.
I remember.
Aside from the helmet, because I mean, it's not like
we're still rolling with that.
You can't say it's like the helmet it's not that good looking. I don't think it's bottom 10, but the helmet is not that good looking.
Bottom 10 jersey is crazy. Second was Albany is a solid FCS program. That one was rough too.
I didn't say that.
You didn't say that, really? I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead.
I don't remember that one.
I'll go ahead and play the soundbite of that one before episode 42. But no, let's jump into the spring games.
You remember my bad takes. There's just too many for me to remember for you, you know?
Okay, yeah. Anyways.
All right.
Man, the
spring games.
Spazzing right
now. Unbelievable.
Upward of like 13 players in the portal for Colorado over the last couple of days. I just saw a report that the Colorado players entering the portal, Deion Sanders isn't allowing them to get their spring practice film. So let me find out who the player's name was before I start talking about something I don't know, because it was just a recent report. We're recording Tuesday night at around 8:30. So
let's see why.
Let me go
ahead. Why do you have to be like that? I'll give my quick take on a Notre Dame players entering the transfer portal. I think it really is based off of they don't like playing under Deion. They just got very good spring game film or practice film, which now they can't use. And so now they're trying to transfer out. So, I mean, these players who like Deion is not a very player-friendly coach if you look at it from certain terms. So these players, they wanted to get out, and I guess now the things that they were going to use to get out are being taken from them, which I think is just hurting the kids more than it's helping you.
Here is Zachary Courtney, a tight end from Colorado, who entered the transfer portal recently. He is on Twitter at ZacharyCourtN11. Quote, "For the coaches who are trying to recruit me, I'm sorry, but I will not be able to get y'all my film from practices last season because I'm not allowed to have it, because the head coach at CU will not allow it. This is very unlucky, and if you have any questions, just text me." End quote.
Well, it could be like last season, because last season could mean Deion was just like, we're tossing this team away.
I think a couple. My perception is that Deion is not allowing him to give up film because it's going to allow other teams to kind of see what they're trying to do and let them see other things like that. So a little bit I do understand it, a little bit I don't, because I think especially when you look at a guy like Montana Lamonius Craig, who had a terrific spring game. We're just about to talk about the CU spring game, but a guy like that who had a phenomenal spring game, caught for over 100 yards, had a nice snag in the back of the end zone as well. You have an absolutely phenomenal game like that. Maybe you're not digging Shadur Sanders, Deion Sanders, and all this new regime. You get those stats, you get your name out there. Everyone understands you can play into the transfer portal, go somewhere where you may be able to get some playing time. So I do understand it. Ben, I'm ready to talk about Colorado and their spring game, though. What they do have, not what they're losing, what they do have is a quarterback who is really good. He showed it, right? He proved it. 16-19, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns. Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter connection will be so strong this year. Both have potential to be one of the better duos in the Pac-12, Ben.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they both were. Shador kind of came up, but Travis Hunter, everyone knew. Everyone knew he was going to be great, and now he's just getting to show it on the Power Five level. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're doing this year, and I think that the two of them combined with Dion's coaching, if they both like the coaching and understand it, they could definitely set themselves up for a great future.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that was talked about a lot in the broadcast, when doing the research here for episode 42, came across as one of the bigger parts this season, and that's Sean Lewis, right? Sean Lewis comes over from Kent State. He was the head coach. He comes from one of the more exciting offenses. He teamed up with Colin Schlee, who we will get to later in this episode, believe it or not. Colin Schlee, offensive coordinator Andrew Souter. They ran an absolute sprint up to the line offense that we saw a lot in this year's spring game from Colorado. Brings a high, fun, fast-paced offense and a pretty player-friendly offense to Boulder. And I think that's something that get out, throw the ball, run up to the line, get up, hand it off, throw it. Just really exciting. Pretty simple reads from what I saw in the spring game. Will that, continue throughout the season and the regular season? I don't know. That could just be a spring game thing. I guess we won't know until, week 12 or week 1, week 2, whatever it may be. But a lot of quick hitting slants, RPOs, easy reads, read option plays for Shadur, just a lot of stuff like that. Baseline plays, maybe getting that offense in tune just a little bit. And to me, they look good. I like what Sean Lewis is doing on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know how hands-on schematically Coach Prime is, but it seemed like they had a pretty good schematic thing going on offense. We'll touch on defense after your take here, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, this team, they have the talent. They just need to put it all together. It's something that I think they can definitely do. I think they will have to listen to Dion, and if he can figure out what to do coaching wise and how to set these players up, I think it could be a really great team. They have a bunch of talent. Dion knows how to bring people in, so they just need to put it all together, and we'll see what they're able to do.
Yeah, and I think the main idea for Coach Prime and the main idea for Coach Deion Sanders here at Colorado is go get the players, right?
Yeah.
Go get the guys. You know how to sell guys. You seem to have a very charismatic personality. You seem how to know to bring these 18-year-olds into your program. Keeping them has proven to be a problem to this point, although it's only year 1 for him. But he's done an excellent job bringing in the caliber of players that he needs to compete at this level, and then bringing in guys who may know a little bit more, who may be a little bit more well-versed schematically at the collegiate level. Example, Sean Lewis, right? He coached in the MAC conference with guys like Colin Schlee, with a pretty fun receiving core at Kent State. He's got a pretty fun offensive resume, and he brings in a guy who may know offensively more about the college game and how to succeed than he does. Deion Sanders, absolutely phenomenal player in the NFL, absolutely phenomenal player at Florida State, knows what he's doing in the NIL, knows how to bring guys in. He's been able to throw the bag at some guys and bring guys in just because of his name, and that's exactly what he needs to continue to do. Deion Sanders does not need to go out and be the best coach in college football. He doesn't need to be Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, and guys like that who are just schematic geniuses. If Deion Sanders is able to bring in a top 25 recruiting class each and every year and continue to bring in position coaches and, offensive, defensive coordinators that can produce the talent onto the NFL, he's going to be one of the better coaches in college football, and it won't take too long. It's going to be keeping those players, obviously, as we've seen. But, Ben, let's get to the defense. It was a little rough. I won't lie. Watching it looked a little rough. I visited a couple Colorado fan sites, message boards, stuff like that. Spring game intel, all that good stuff. DBs look terrible. All right. DBs looked really bad, Ben. I don't know if you caught any of the game. I caught a little bit, caught up with the highlights, and looked at the game log just a little bit. And this defensive line looked weak, man. It looked really weak. And I think the secondary should be a problem too. You lose 4-star DB Jujuwan Johnson. And Travis Hunter's going to have to play 3/4 of the snaps on both sides of the football because he's probably the most talented player on their whole roster. So the defense looked weak, Ben. I don't know if that's just me, but good night. The offense looked solid. Defense did not.
No, for sure. I mean, the offense won this game 39-27, and the defense didn't really do much until the end. So it's something where maybe this spring portal they got to bring in some players, and I think Dion could definitely do that. I think he could show people, or he could bring in players that he needs to bring in, and I think he could definitely could it could work out in his favor. But they just got to get a few things tightened up, and I mean, it's the first year of a rebuild. If you're expecting them to go 10-2, calm down a bit. But I think they can fix it up in the next few years, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, like, with the NIL, with the transfer portal, with guys like Josh Heupel and Mel Tucker succeeding in their first or second years, the bar has been raised for first or second year head coaches. Brian Kelly is another example. It's no longer like you have a couple of years, aside from maybe Matt Rule, you don't have really that, like, you're not really able to kind of come in, slowly build your program anymore. Like, you have the opportunity to go out and get 5 stars, even if you're Colorado, even if you're a team. If you can throw the bag at them, if you can get the biggest names because of the money in the NIL, you're going to be able to grow your program within 1 or 2 years, right? I think Coach Prime and Colorado have super high expectations this season, and I think that could come back to bite them. And I think Colorado fans could set themselves up for disappointment this season. Do I think they're going to be god awful again? No. Do I think they're going to go 1-11 again? No. But do I think this is a team that should expect maybe a 6-6, 7-5 season until they can produce and progress more talent than what they have now? Certainly. I think this is a 6-6, 7-5 football team. Defense proved it. Defense really did prove it. Your offense isn't good enough to go out and win you 11 games. The defense is terrible. Defense is bad. They're going to need some guys in the portal. But I digress. Let's get to Nebraska, Ben. Opening thoughts on the Cornhusker spring game.
I mean, it really, more people are focused on this QB battle. Jeff Sims and Casey Thompson were a big thing, and we've obviously talked about them for a bit, but they're a team that people are really, they're just looking for things to, like, show out, or for some things to pop, that they're like, okay, Matt Rule is fixing some things up, and I think it showed a bit, and I think they're definitely setting themselves up well in the future. But this game, I mean, it's a Nebraska screen game, the 21-7, low scoring, but I don't know, did their scoring, did they just play a normal game?
Yeah, I think so. From what I watched, from the game that I watched, I believe so.
Okay. Well, I feel like I've seen more like random spring game type stuff than just a normal game.
It's hard to keep up, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, I know. But it's an interesting thing, obviously Jeff Sims got the win at quarterback, and they won 21 points with him at quarterback, which is something that clearly Casey Thompson wasn't doing. And so I think that most likely, I think Jeff Sims is looking like he can win this starting quarterback job. And I think that he showed it in this game. And they're a team that they're trying to turn things around, and it's evident.
Yeah, they certainly are. I think the energy was different around the program from when Scott Frost was there. I think just the outward energy after a linebacker makes a tackle, or after someone flies down to take down the kick returner. I think Matt Rule has the energy up, up, up. I heard J.D. Pickell talking about Nebraska this past week. I heard their strength and conditioning program has been ramped up. I heard they've got some great brand new high energy coaches into their program, and that's what you like to see. It really is. Ben, you talked about Jeff Sims. We'll talk about the battle a little later. But in this game, he looked like a solid quarterback. He ran the ball a couple times and was able to make good football decisions. And that was one of the biggest concerns coming from Georgia Tech, was just dumb decisions, just dumb things that he did. I don't think we saw as much as that, right? Obviously, he's probably playing the second team defense. He wasn't playing guys that are going to get it to play at Michigan or Ohio State, right? So he's going to have to adjust once he gets to that level. But yeah, I mean, I think he played well. Anthony Grant looked strong, returning running back. He looked experienced, good. He's a starting guy. 915 yards, 6 touchdowns last season. But hey, this year, it's going to be Billy Kemp IV. He's a shifty wide receiver. They're going to play in the slot. He's transferring from UVA. He only caught 16 balls for 116 yards, but the broadcasters were comparing him to Cole Beasley. I saw a ton of articles regarding him, and I think he's got something special, Ben. Something special. I don't know how to explain it, but he looks really fun. And yeah, obviously Casey Thompson didn't play. He's nursing a shoulder injury. Chuba Purdy, Henrik Harburg didn't really look convincing I think it's going to be a 2-horse race from now on. Purdy and Harburg may have been able to slide themselves in there with a bad Jeff Sims performance, but he played lights out. I'm proud of the guy, and I'm rooting for Jeff Sims. But Ben, let's get into this defense. They bring in a new defensive coordinator, Tony White, from Syracuse. He's going to run a hard-nosed 3-3-5. And honestly, the most surprising thing, Ben, was that the fact that they were able to pressure the quarterback so well with only 3 guys up front, right? 3 guys on the defensive line, 3 guys in the middle level at the linebacker spot, and then 5 guys in the secondary. So I like what I saw. Like I said, you saw guys flying around. They seemed excited to be out on the field. And, yeah, man, let's talk key names. Princewell, don't kill me. Uman, Milan. Maybe we will know how to say his name after this year, after his really good year. But
yeah, for sure.
3 or 4 tackles for loss and a sack. Cameron Leonard and Maverick Noonan both look good on the defensive front. Ben, I'm excited about this Nebraska team. Defensively, they surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, one of the teams forced 3 straight fumbles on 3 straight possessions. So obviously, they seem like a team that they're ready to try to get the other team to turn the ball over. And you think Nebraska, you think more of a defensive type, that wishbone offense where it's just we're gonna run fullback dive on you a million times and then stop you on defense. And they stopped teams on defense. The red team was held to 7 points total. So I mean, it's the defense was they were there. They're still a team that they're trying to build up the defense, but I think it's the improvement is showing.
I agree. I think Rule, here's the thing. We've seen Rule go 2-10, 1-11 in his first 2 years at Temple and Baylor, respectively. But this season, I think this team is talented enough. They got some guys in the portal. Billy Kemp IV. You got some guys progressing like Anthony Grant, Jeff Sims, Casey Thompson going to be pushing themselves to get better. The defense looks good under Tony White. I think this is a team that could push for a bowl game. And I know, Ben, we both said the same thing last year under Scott Frost. They crashed and burned, whatever. But I got faith in them this year. Even if they go 5-7, I don't think that's, the end of the world. That's an improvement from last year, believe it or not. And you're going to be looking to come in here in 2024 and maybe wreak some havoc. But overall, Rule's got the team looking brand new. The energy looks really good, hard, aggressive, hard-nosed play, just like you'd expect out of Nebraska. Yep. So I'm excited for him, Ben. And we'll see how they get this thing rolling. Ben, your Oklahoma Sooners, they played their spring game, a high-scoring affair. I know they had a weird little scoring system like we mentioned. Yeah. But I'll give you the floor very first. Your Oklahoma Sooners, what'd you think?
I think it was good to see the young guys get some playing time. Obviously I saw Jackson Arnold throw a few touchdowns, saw Peyton Bowen get a pick. I saw just a bunch of people who I was a bit like, okay, are they going to be good? Be good. And I'm excited. A bunch of guys we brought in, like Dason McCullough. Dason McCullough looks phenomenal. I am so ready to see him on the field. And all these players who they've been a bit shaky or something, like DJ Graham, DJ Graham, new receiver for the team, and he had a great day. So this team, the difference in this team is we look way more comfortable now. The trust is there, and I'm very excited for it. I think we're explosive. We have what we need. We're smart. So I'm excited for this team, and I'm excited to see what we do this year.
Yeah, I saw Jackson Dart throw a seed across the middle of the field.
Arnold.
I know they were getting backlash about what Brent Venables said before the game or whatever from a bunch of USC fans. I don't know if you caught that, Ben. But yeah, look, I saw, I know I showed you the picture, but if I'm an Oklahoma fan, Oklahoma coach, whatever, I'm psyched for Peyton Bowen. I'm psyched for PJ Adebawore. Dude, they fit right in. PJ
is like a monster.
They don't even lose a step. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they just came in, made an immediate impact. Team looks different than last year for sure. Like you mentioned, I think Venables has got to go into the right direction this year. I like Oklahoma, Ben. Any closing thoughts on the Sooners?
I mean, his thing, we are getting hated on for apparently being the most annoying fans, saying that I think we're going to get 10 wins this year or something. And I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's whatever. And I think I, as a fan, am not expecting a 10-win, 11-win playoff season. Who cares?
Yeah.
But I think we are going to definitely have a better season than what we just had, and so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think the biggest goal, if you're Oklahoma this season, is setting Jackson Arnold up to be in a spot to contend by his, by the end of his college career, maybe even in his second, third season, right? You set him up well, you bring in some bigger recruits, you develop those guys on the defensive side of the ball, and just let Jackson Arnold cook his next year when Dylan Gabriel's gone. I think you set yourself up well. But let's get to Alabama. The Alabama Crimson Tide, they played their spring game. The quarterback situation continued to look rough, man. I won't lie. Jalen Milroe could have been better. Neither were super convincing in their first live 11-11 situation. Obviously, we saw Milroe against Texas A&M and other teams last season, but I don't know. Milroe's 19 for 37, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Ty Simpson, 12 of 26, 135 yards and a touchdown. We saw Jalen Milroe connect with Kendrick Law for some nice gains. Both quarterbacks kind of just were both shaky. Both saw some overthrows. And it was just a weird game, Ben. It was a weird game from both QBs. I will say the true freshman Dylan Lonergan stepped in, 8 for 14, 79 yards and a touchdown. Honestly, impressed a lot of people. 6'2", 215 4-star. Maybe he's got a shot as well. Maybe you look for a guy in the portal. Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame just jumped in the portal today. So maybe that's someone Nick Saban goes after. But first time in a while,
Yeah.
Ben, I can remember a quarterback from Alabama, the situation not being, it's Bryce Young. Yeah, it's this guy. Now, it's Mac Jones. Yeah, it's A.J. McCarron. We don't know this year, and it's sending a lot of people into a crazed maniac fashion over on Twitter or other social media outlets saying Alabama's going 8-4 or 9-3 or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are some good things. Like, okay, in terms of an Alabama quarterback, Milroe and Ty Simpson might not be the greatest. They're still starting caliber quarterbacks, I would say. And I mean, going up against the Alabama defense is obviously not offering you that much help,
Yeah.
But I think this team, they're ready. Alabama, they showed their freshmen mostly showed like I've heard so much stuff about Caleb Downs in the last week. It's crazy,
Seriously.
Um, Caleb Downs, Justice Haynes, he looked amazing too.
Yeah.
So these freshmen look like they're ready to come in and step up, which is something that Bama hasn't really needed in a bit, but I think they're ready to now.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, Justice Haynes, Jace McClellan, other guys like Miller, they all look like SEC running backs. You get a talented quarterback in there. Maybe someone develops. Maybe someone busts on the scene. We continue to hear good things about this guy or this guy. Once that gets solidified, I think they're ready to make another run in the SEC. I think they're one step away, and I think that's the quarterback situation getting squared away. But yeah, defensively, they look good. They look really good. Secondary looked great. Looked like a veteran group, right? Like you said, Caleb Downs, heard his name a ton, but veteran guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terry and Arnold. Look at a guy like Malachi Moore as well. Malachi Moore played pretty good. He got reps at star early on, kind of during the spring season. Got a couple reps there during the spring game. Moved to safety, had 9 tackles and 3 sacks. I mean, this is just the defense is unreal. They're going to be pumping out a ton of production here in 2023. I think they're set up once again to have one of the better defenses in the SEC. And like I said, you find that QB, you find that guy who's going to be consistent. That's going to be the key. But there's no need to panic. It's a solid game. Plenty of talent on both sides of the ball for them. Where they're going to be a team who wins 10 or 11 games this season. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the playoff or playoff contention here and again in 2023, 2024. So no need to panic, Alabama fans. I'm telling you right now, figure out between Rowe, maybe Lonergan, maybe go find a transfer QB. Once you figure all this out, and we'll talk about the QB battle later on in the episode, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Ben, LSU.
Yep.
Now, this is a team that fans have been wilding. I won't lie. I'm kind of fed up with LSU fans at this point. Fans who think that this team should be a top 4 ranked team in the country, you're lying. Like, you're just lying. Like, think you should be a top 5 team in college football right now, I don't care. You're not there right now. Maybe you get there during the season. Maybe you get there with a couple big wins. But me and Ben both were talking to an LSU fan a day or two ago, and he was saying, we don't get lucky against Alabama, then that's a whole different season, right? We lose to A&M anyways. We got blown out by Tennessee. We didn't belong in the SEC championship game, and that was the most frank I've heard an LSU fan be all off season, right? Am I saying they're a bad team? Absolutely not. I think Jayden Daniels is a very good QB1. He impressed at the spring game. He's coming into his second year with Brian Kelly, Mike Denbrock. He looks like a solid SEC QB. And Ben, we always talk about it. It's going to be, where can Jayden Daniels elevate his game to? That's how good the team's going to be. If he wants to be another system quarterback who comes in, makes the plays when he needs to, misses a few throws here or there, and doesn't separate himself as an all SEC QB, this team is going to struggle. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying that, Ben.
I would agree. I mean, Jayden Daniels is somebody where he's a quarterback who can step up. I believe in Jayden Daniels, and I think he has that potential to step up. But if he can make the plays that he needs to make, and here's the difference. Tennessee last year, a team that was great supporting cast, but the Hendon Hooker had to win them games, okay?
Yeah.
Jayden Daniels has to win this team games. So if he can put and it's going to be hard to even compete with what Hendon Hooker did last year because he's on some unbelievable stuff. But he just needs to help this team win games, and that's what they need out of him. They need a quarterback who not only does his job, but also does his job, excels at doing his job.
Yeah, I think the difference for sure between Hendon and the thing is, you have some talented receivers. If you're Jayden Daniels, you're going to be able to hand the ball off a little bit. One of those guys who really stepped up and put his name in the hat of RB1 here is Noah Cain, finally coming along after transferring from Penn State, battled injuries. There are multiple running backs, including John Emery, the junior, continue to just do dumb things off the field. I think it was academics for some of them, injuries for others. Noah Cain has solidified himself, but Jayden Daniels is a guy who, look, you're going to be out on your own sometimes. Malik Neighbors showed multiple times, especially in that FSU game, he can drop the football. He dropped it a ton, right? He drops the ball. He muffed a punt. Obviously, that was week 1 of last season, so he developed. Yeah. Kyron Lacy out wide looks like another good option. He had a one-handed snag, consistent game, and it's going to be a necessary 1-2 punch. If you don't have Kyron Lacy and Malik Neighbors, because Kayshon Boutte's gone, you're not going to be able to survive, right? One good wide receiver and a solid QB is not going to get the job done in the SEC. You kind of maxed out your potential there. And you talk about that at Arkansas, right? Solid QB in KJ Jefferson, pretty good option, if not one of the better options in the SEC, and Raheem Sanders. Not a ton of guys out wide who are going to be able, obviously Matt Landers was able to step up for Arkansas last season in certain times. But if you don't have that number 1 wide receiver option, you're talking about a Jalen Hyatt or a Cedric Tillman at Tennessee, you're going to struggle. Need someone to throw the ball to, need someone to go to in a must-have situation. I definitely think they have that with Kayshon Boutte and Kyron Lacy, but they're going to have to come along. Jayden Daniels is going to have to separate himself from the field. And, so there's my 2 cents on the offense. Quickly, let's get to the defense before we get to our QB battles here in episode 43 or 42, I should say. Defensive line looked good. Tons and tons and tons of returning production. One of the something that a lot of people see and automatically assume that they're going to be 10-4 again is that returning production rate. It's somewhere around 80%. That's good. Still going to have to come out and win games regardless. A top 5 portal class definitely helps bolster that. People are talking on Twitter we've got a top 5 transfer portal class. We got people coming in ready to whatever. I do think they've got some dudes coming in through the portal who are going to help them in the secondary, who are going to help them in the linebacking core, and we're going to help them here. But Ben, I want your take. How's the defense going to play into success this season for LSU?
I mean, heavily. I mean, this team, they're really. I've been saying it's going to depend on Jayden Daniels, but it's also going to depend on each other. To beat a Bama team, you got to be good on both sides of the ball. There is no we can beat you by being good at offense. Unless you're Tennessee, which was just strange. But they're gonna need their defense to win those type of games, and so it will heavily impact the season if they're trying to make a championship run or anything similar to that. So the defense they will need that to make any run that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Zy Alexander, J.K. Johnson started on the first team defense in the secondary. With Terrence Wells had some good pass breakups. The defense is going to be solid. I think, again, Jane Daniels separating himself is going to be key. I think this is going to be a very solid team. And I continue to tell LSU fans I talk to, do not get down on yourselves if you come out and you go 9-3 or you go 8-4 this season, because Brian Kelly going 10-4 may not be obtainable through and through and through and through. But you come out, you go 9-3, you go 8-4, you bring in a guy at quarterback who's going to be able to compete. You bring back Noah Kane, you bring back some other guys, and you just continue to build this program back to where they were in 2019. I think you're in a good spot. But defensive line looked good. Tons of returning production. Parashan, Braden Swinson, both stood out up front. It's a balanced team. They need to find some depth on defense, but they're going to be good. Questions in the running back room need to settle. And like I said, Jane Daniels will decide how good this football team is in 2023. And I think he's up for the challenge. I think he is. Ben, that's a lot of spring game talk right there. That is a jam-packed spring game slate. And we missed a few teams too. Like, there are teams out there that we're just not going to be able to talk about. But it is what it is. We've got approximately 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you for listening. Again, make sure to leave us a 5-star review if you're still listening. Like and subscribe over on YouTube and follow our socials. Just wanted to remind everyone right there, code SBS15 at checkout on universitytraditions.biz. Got a super nice hat up here from Universe.
Yeah, there you go.
You can see me pointing. Screw it. And, I went golfing this Saturday, wore the hat out there, super comfortable. So if you're into golfing, go ahead and go check it out.
Was it a good day?
It was. It was a nice day, nice weather-wise. For Drew Hole golfing, shanked a couple, pulled a couple left. Things to be improved on.
It's got to happen.
Yeah, things to be improved on. I think the baseball swing definitely does mess it up a little bit. And I'm not even lying. I think it definitely does mess it up a little bit. But, maybe not the best of days on the links. But, we'll bounce back. Bounce back, certainly. Now, Ben, let's start with our first QB battle. Let me go ahead and flash it up on the screen. I got to get all these down right here. We talked about him earlier in the episode, and I said, we're going to talk about him. Believe it or not, this is a guy that you may not expect us to come in and talk about here in episode 42. Maybe you're like, I kind of forgot this guy existed. I wouldn't blame you. That's Colin Schlee. That's Dante Moore. That's Ethan Garbers. Schlee transfers from Kent State. Talked about him. Sean Lewis now at Colorado. He entered the transfer portal. Colin Schlee did. Here's Schlee in 2022. 2,109 yards, 13 TDs, 5 picks, almost 100 carries, 492 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was a veteran presence at Kent State. He was a guy in the MAC conference who continued to stand out. But Ben, goodness, we didn't talk about this guy. We didn't talk about this team spring game. I like what I saw to Dante Moore, and we'll get later to that. That's what Colin Schlee did in his debut for UCLA. Just absolutely pooped the bed. 4 interceptions, Ben. 4 picks, if you can believe that. I know one of them dropped off someone's hand, so we talked about that last episode where that kind of screwed him. But 3 picks. We're only 15 practices in. I understand that, but that's unacceptable, dude. That's unacceptable. I think Schlee right now is QB3 until further seen. I want your take on Schlee or your take on this battle in general, because we got to check up on what's going down in Pasadena.
No, for sure. I think Schlee is definitely 3 right now. Garbers has that experience. Dante Moore has that talent. Schlee has a little bit of both. But I think that right now I would give it to Dante Moore. Honestly, he, for a team where it's like, would I rather play like a sophomore Ethan Garbers or a redshirt junior Ethan Garbers or a true freshman Dante Moore that can get the experience he needs and develop? I would definitely go with Dante Moore every time. I think if they ever need a spark or something, sure, go ahead and try them out. Those guys, they know what they're doing, and they could definitely try to do something special. But right now, if I was Chip Kelly, I'd be leaning towards Dante Moore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Garbers, like you said, he backed up Dorian Thompson Robinson last year, and I know DTR stayed on campus. He's one of those guys who was there for the program. He loves UCLA and all that stuff, and he stuck around to continue to develop Dante Moore. Probably get some reps in with Ethan Garber again. He played in 5 games last year. He got some reps in their Sun Bowl loss to Pitt, and threw 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Just kind of, right? Ethan Garber is the safe fallback option. If you want to go big, go home. I'm picking Dante Moore, especially after the spring game we saw out of him 2 days back on Saturday. Flipped his commitment from Oregon. He's now at UCLA. He's expected to be a play now QB, right? Moore played the best out of the 3, rarely missing a throw, slung it around the yard. He looked really good. Like, I think Dante Moore is one of those guys who's going to be able to step in as a true freshman, put this team where they need to be, maybe develop them. Maybe we see Ethan Garbers hop in the transfer portal. It is what it is. I think Dante Moore is the guy you got to go with if you're Chip Kelly. I understand you're working with Garbers, and the development of this quarterback battle is going to be fun. But Dante Moore, we saw him in the All-American Bowl. He looks solid. He looks like a produced now QB. And the one thing, my main takeaway here in this quarterback battle check-in, number 1 team, UCLA right here, do not make this a revolving quarterback door. You've got to pick a quarterback and ride with him. You can't have Schlee game 1 and Dante Moore game 8, and then Garbers is playing game 10. Schlee's playing 11 because somebody's not playing well. Pick it and go, right? You cannot make this a revolving quarterback door. I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions of college football is that you can kind of just rotate quarterbacks here and there. We saw it from Texas A&M last year. I don't want it to be the same situation where you've got a talented true freshman, you just let him rot on the bench. Connor Wigman, exactly, right? I think you've got to go with Dante Moore. And even if you don't, if you're Chip Kelly and you think Ethan Garbers is the move, which I don't, but if you do, just go with him until maybe something happens where he gets injured, so on and so forth. Maybe something like that happens. But I think Garbers is going to be a serviceable backup if he doesn't jump in the portal. I think Dante Moore's the guy.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's what you have to do. And so maybe we do see one of these guys into the portal. But I think you have to roll with Dante Moore at the start of the season.
Yeah. We'll see how he continues to progress. Obviously, it's still pretty early in the process of the offseason, but we will see. Let's get to Auburn, Alabama, Ben. First of all, check out my just nifty title up top. Now freeze, you get it? That's pretty good. Hey. No? Okay. I had a feeling you were going to be digging it.
I see what you were doing. I get it. But it's a new thing that I think we should yeah.
Understandable. If you're watching on YouTube, tell us what we think. Tell us what you think. Auburn Tigers. A poll was done by auburnwire.usatoday.com. Excuse me. Make sure to go check that out, whatever. The following results predicting or who they want at QB1. It had 50% Ashford, 29%. 29% of people want a quarterback through the portal. So a Tyler Buckner or someone who's entering the portal. 19% have Holden Guriner.
Yeah.
1.6% of people have TJ Finley as a predicted or the preferred starter in Auburn. I don't blame him. He's a
group of 5 quarterback.
Wild takes on TJ Finley. I feel bad for the guy. He's just getting cooked over on Twitter. To be fair, I mean, I think Ashford's definitely the guy you got to go with at this point, just because what we've seen from him. He threw for 1,600 yards, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. It's just shaky, I think would be the best word to describe it for Auburn. But like I said, I think it's Ashford's job to lose. He got the majority of reps in the spring game last weekend. And if you're Hugh Freeze, you got to roll with what you had last year until proven otherwise, unless you get a guy like a Spencer Sanders who enters the spring portal or a Tyler Buckner who just jumped in from Notre Dame, as I mentioned his name again.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. I think Finley's really probably out of it. So I think it's Ashford or Guriner, or if you get someone in the portal, it's going to be one of them. But I think Ashford has it right now. But here's the thing: they need a quarterback, and they need a solid one. Pretty bad. I've been saying this. It's hard to play in the SEC with a revolving door at quarterback. I mean,
Yep.
it's been evident that you're not going to win games by doing that. A&M and things like that. So they need to find a quarterback and they need to just stick with the guy.
Yeah. Here are my notes. I've got it could be a 2022 Michigan situation where you go 2 or 3 games to find your starting quarterback. Maybe you switch off Robbie Ashford and Holden Guriner, or you get someone in the portal who may want to take those reps. But again, you cannot let this turn into something that's like week 1 and 2, week 3 and 4, and then here's week 5 and 6, right? You just got to pick your guy after those first 2 or 3 weeks against some softball cupcake opponents. Go in, get the job done, get the win, and then try and figure out who your QB1 is if you can't figure it out in the spring and the summer. But I think you've got to go with Ashford at this point. TJ Finley's looked bad. Holden Guriner didn't have that experience from last year. So unless you get someone in the portal that's ready to play now, Ashford's the guy. That's just a check-in from April 25th. So it could change down the stretch for sure. No doubt about it. Let's get to Auburn's rival. Let's get to the Iron Bowl opponent here. Another team facing a quarterback controversy. I didn't really go nifty with the title. I just put tied QB1 question mark. We got Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe. Ben, Southern Boy Sports, episode 42 trivia. Where does Ty Simpson's dad coach college football?
That is wild. Seems like a Clemson guy to me.
He is the head football coach at UT Martin.
Okay, well, I knew it was wrong when you said that, but
yeah. Ty Simpson transferred in. No, he didn't. Ty Simpson went to Westview High School here in Tennessee. His dad coaches it over at UT Martin. So rooting for the guy, There he is in Westview jersey if you're watching on YouTube. But we just talked about it, right? Neither of them set themselves apart. It's going to be a spring down the stretch, summer, maybe even early fall battle. Neither quarterbacks were convincing. Although Milroe has gotten some rave reviews by coaches and insiders saying, like, if Jalen was playing like he was if Jalen was playing how he is right now against Texas A&M last year, we would have won and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, right? It's Jalen Milroe doesn't look like a kind of guy who's polished enough to go in and just wreck college football and wreck the SEC. But Ty Sims has got some time to develop. Ben, what are you thinking on the Tide quarterback battle? How are you checking in on him?
The main thing is what Nick Saban would think. And right now he's not too happy with how Milroe plays. I mean, he wants a quarterback who will make the reads and then run instead of I'm going to make one read and if my predetermined read is not there, I'm going to run,
Yep.
So it's something similar where I've seen it many places, some Hillsborough High School football. It's basically what it was all the time.
Yeah.
So it really is like Ty Simpson. I think if Nick Saban sees that he can do that, then Ty Simpson could definitely earn this job. Milroe needs to end up calming down, trusting the pocket, and making these reads, and then using his legs.
Yeah, I think Ty's got a build, man. He's 6'2", 185, and that was him coming out of high school. So with that weight program, he's probably up just a little bit. He's solid. He's young. I think he's got the potential maybe, but I think Milroe's definitely the guy that they're leaning with. He got the reps last season. He escaped a little bit in the spring game, definitely showed his speed. And like you said, he's got to polish himself and just reading the pocket, reading his reads, and then taking off in the aftermath. Favorite as of right now has got to be Jalen Milroe. Dylan Lonergan introduced himself in a positive way this past weekend. A lot of people had their eyes on him. I know Nick Saban touched on him in his post-game interview as well. But it could be a 3-horse battle down the stretch. Maybe you get a Lonergan surprise start sometime here soon. But no, I see Milroe winning. I think there's a reason he got reps last season, and I think Ty Simpson may just have to wait his turn in Tuscaloosa. This next one is going to be quick, Ben. It's going to be one of the quicker topics of the night as we come down the stretch here in episode 42. It is the Ole Miss Rebels and their quarterback, quote, battle between Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders and Walker Howard. Now, I did try and go with the nifty title here. Do you get it, Ben? Taking Rebs.
Yeah, like reps. God.
Yeah. Hey, that was pretty good. That was pretty clever. You got to admit, that was pretty clever. Taking Rebs. taking QB1 reps. So I'm pretty proud of myself.
They got it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm just, I was pretty proud of myself for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, it's Dart. It's Dart. I'm sorry, it's Dart.
It's Dart.
We don't really have to talk about this one for a long time. 2,900 yards, 20 touchdowns, 11 picks. He outplayed his competition this past weekend in the Grove Bowl. We saw Spencer Sanders and Walker Howard make some bad reads. I'll continue to say it. Howard, stick around. You got your time to shine after Dart graduates, or maybe he gets injured. You're the guy. Spencer Sanders, you got to play now, dude. You want to go to the NFL draft. I think you definitely have the opportunity to go transfer down somewhere and go transfer to a school that really needs a quarterback in the portal. Go to in the 6th and 7th round of this year's draft or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why you would choose to go to Ole Miss in the first place. That one will still always slide by me. So Ben, any last takes?
It's a weird one.
Yeah, it was weird.
It's Dart. I mean, but the interesting thing is behind him, who earns that job? Because in the case that maybe Dart gets hurt or something, who is QB2 for this team? And so I think QB2 is more of a QB battle than what QB1 is right now.
Yeah. I've got Skylar Thompson, or I got to stop saying that. I keep saying Skylar Thompson. We got Casey Thompson and Jeff Sims from Nebraska. I think Jeff Sims is the front runner right now. Casey Thompson's hurt, so we will get back to this one. We'll definitely do a checkup on quarterback battles down the stretch of this spring when we need something to talk about later on. But for episode 42, Ben, we went longer than we have in a while, but it was a good jam-packed episode, and those are things that you love to see. So any last closing objections, takes here for episode 42?
Bama's jerseys are not that good.
Okay. That's a bad thing.
Toss someone back in there.
Yeah, bad take. Oh, God. Okay. Well, this has been the 42nd episode. Jam-packed episode. We appreciate you listening to this point if you have. I always listen to the podcast doing my chores on Sunday, doing the stuff around the house that I need to do. So, I always listen all the way through. So I know I'm going to hear this back with myself. And, great episode. Great episode today. Episode 42. Mm-hmm. Make sure to go like the post over on Instagram and Twitter. Come back next week, Spotify and YouTube. Like and subscribe to the channel over there. 5-star review on Spotify would really help us out. Follow our socials. This has been the 42nd episode of the Southern Boys Sports Podcast. Same time, same place next week. See you, boys.